Hello everyone, in this video I'll be teaching you a chess puzzle that I found online that was composed by Otto Blaffy in 1922. So, can you see the position? This is quite bad for white. So, white has a pawn for a whole army of pieces. But how can you win this from white? Well, there is a way to win this. You might be shocked, but you can win this. First, the move that is played is king takes on e1. So you can see, this is the only piece that is not defended, the knight. You can't take this pawn because it's defended by the rook, and this pawn and the bishop. So the knight is the only piece to take, so king captures on e1. And the advantage for white is that there is only one move to play as black, which is queen to a1. The queen can keep moving back and forth, and this is the only thing that can be played. Queen to a1. And now, here is a big decision. Do you want to move to h3 or h4? If you move to h4, it will be a draw. By analysing moves, you need to analyse the moves ahead. But if you play h3, it's completely winning, and I will show you why. Let's go for h3. If we see h3, queen back to a2, h4, queen to a1, h5, queen to a2, h6, queen to a1, just repeating moves, marching the pawn down the board, and h7, queen to a2. Now here is the big move. What do you promote to? Well, if you promote to a queen, a queen can't fight off a whole army of pieces. What if you promote to a bishop? This is not strong enough as well. This can only capture diagonally pieces. So it can only capture the pieces that are on its diagonal. And there are some pieces that are on light squares, and this bishop is on the dark square. What about a rook? A rook is not strong enough to fight off a whole army. The only piece left is a knight. What about the knight? Well, we promote to a knight for one main reason. The knight can jump over pieces, and this way you can eliminate some pieces, then give checkmate. But which corner do you give checkmate to? Let's try this one. e2. How can you eliminate this pawn? Well, this pawn is defended by the bishop, which is defended by the king and the pawn. And this rook defends this pawn, and the rook is defended by this pawn, which this pawn is defended by this rook and this pawn is defended by this pawn, and it's defended by this pawn, which is defended by this pawn and this rook. This is far too strong for the knight. What about this d3 square? Well, this is defended by this pawn and this rook, and this rook is defended by the king, which is defended by this pawn on b2, and this pawn is defended by this bishop, this queen, and this rook, and that is virtually impossible to eliminate. But what about the queen on a2? The queen's not defended by anyhow. The queen's not defended at all. But since you move to h3, will the queen be able to stop the checkmate? We have one more option, which is the rook. The rook is defended by this pawn, and we have to eliminate this pawn. And it's defended by the queen. But we played h3. Does that mean the queen won't be defending the rook? So we need to eliminate this pawn that is defending this rook. Then we can give checkmate by capturing this rook. Now the queen moves to a1. Knight to f7. Queen to a2. And knight to d8. Queen to a1. Knight to e6. queen to a2, knight takes on c5, queen to a1, knight to e4, queen to a2, and knight to d6, queen to a1. We eliminate this pawn with knight takes on c4, queen to a2, knight to a5. Now, we're going to be going after this rook. But currently you can see the queen is defending this. And now it's black's turn. Black moves the queen to a1, and now knight takes on b3, and this is checkmate. You can see a lovely attack on the queen and the rook, and this is a checkmate. A smothered checkmate with the king blocked in by his own pieces. Well, I said, if you played h4, this queen would be on a2, and this checkmate wouldn't have been possible. That's why it's based on the idea of calculating moves ahead. If the queen was on a2, if you played h4 instead of h3, then the queen would have simply captured the knight, and then black could have unleashed his pieces and finished off the game very easily. And this is why you should have promoted to a knight, because it jumps over pieces, and that's why calculating moves ahead of you is more important than how fast the moves are. So hopefully you've enjoyed this video on the chess puzzle that was composed by Otto Blafey in 1922. Please remember to like this video and subscribe. Thanks for watching. See you soon.